Guys, this is Jannecke. Today I would like to address and reflect upon the feeling of being bored and uninspired, because I assume you've had that feeling before. At least I have, and I would like to share some steps that have worked for me, that have helped me kind of out of that state of feeling just yuck, you know, I'm not inspired about my life, I'm just bored, everything is dull. What we can do about that, because I actually think it is important to address that kind of state and that feeling, because if we don't, it might come back, and it might come back again and again. You might identify with that feeling, and you might create an even heavier energy, and then it can develop into depression or into anxiety or this really emptiness feeling. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there might be learning in that too, and maybe you have to experience that to realize something else. But today I'm more going to speak about that initial feeling of just feeling bored a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and what we can do about that. So what do we usually do when we're in the state of feeling bored? You know, you're not super excited about getting up in the morning. You look at yourself in the mirror and your eyes are not shining. You're kind of like, oh, I have to go to work again, and you don't feel challenged, and it's the same routine in your life, and there's nothing extraordinary happening, and yeah, everything is just boring. And then what do you do? Perhaps you don't acknowledge that you are bored or uninspired. So perhaps you fill yourself up with a lot of things. At least I did, like fill myself up with food that wasn't good for me, or maybe some people start to drink a little bit too much, or even, I don't know, gossip at work just to feel some excitement, do things that are kind of out of character for you, just to feel something. Or maybe you over exercise just to have some excitement, you know, feel this adrenaline in your life. And mostly filling yourself up with things that are not good for you. The first step here then is actually the awareness, because you have to know that you're actually in the state. You have to become aware that, hey, you know what's going on with me right now? My emotions are telling me something. I'm acting a bit out of character. I'm kind of annoyed, maybe irritated. What is behind this? And then it might be other things, but it might be that you're bored and uninspired. So the first key is to acknowledge that you have this feeling. The second thing under step number 1 is actually to become aware of that you are not this feeling, that you are not the emotion. It is emotion that you're having, but you are not the feeling. So you are not bored, you are not uninspired, but you're having a feeling of being uninspired, and you have a feeling of being bored. And that's a big difference. That actually really helped me not to identify with the feeling, because I remember when I was depressed, I used to think that I was the depression, and nobody told me that I wasn't at that time. I didn't know that, but now I know that I had a depression. I wasn't depressed, and that's a big difference actually. Because emotions are moving back and forth in us, inside of us. An emotion is never stuck there 24/7, because our body can't hold one emotion 24/7. So moment to moment the emotion is shifting, but it might come back if you don't transform it or look at the root cause, for instance with depression. So this is what I believe, and I'm not saying this is the truth, but this is my experience, how it has worked for me. So part of step 1 is also to realize that your natural state is joy. It is not feeling bored, it is joy, and that's kind of the same as not identify with the feeling. Joy is a natural state. And how do I know that? Well, I believe that because when you look into a baby's eyes, it's just shining, you know? It's kind of like it has a star inside that is just shining all over, and it's so attentive, and it's so open and curious, and it's in spirit, you know? Inspiration means being in spirit, and you just see that it's present and it's there. So I truly believe that our natural state is joy, and when we're having a feeling of being bored, that is not the real true us. So that was step number 1. Step number 2 that has worked for me is to connect with the divine. And if you're not comfortable with the word divine, you can call it something else. The universe, God, nature, life, your inner self, your inner guru, your inner genius, your inner voice, yourself, whatever works for you. We tend to feel when we're not inspired that we're not connected to the larger self in a way. And it has helped me truly to connect again. And for me, what I did was going into nature. And I practiced mindfulness, and I was aware of every step I took on the ground, on the soil, feeling my feet against the soil. And barefoot is really good to walk as well, going barefoot in nature. And I would hear the birds chirping, and I would feel the wind in my hair, and I would look at the trees and how they were reflecting upon how they were communicating with each other. And I would let myself be amazed of the beauty of nature. And then slowly but surely you feel like this beauty of nature actually penetrates your system. And I at least felt this inspired state. And when I was depressed, I had to go into nature all the time. But today, if I just feel a little dip of being bored or feeling uninspired, I can go into nature, jog or go for a walk, and I immediately feel like I'm back to myself and I'm aligned again. So that can work for you as well, perhaps, or maybe you need to meditate, maybe take a warm cup of tea and just sit down and say to your family, you know, I just need 15 minutes every day just by myself. Or listen to your favorite music, just feel yourself breathing, just being with yourself without much noise. Then you are connecting again. And then you can feel that spark within you. And you can also practice mindfulness. However you're doing it, yoga, exercising in a healthy way, not over-exercising, but just feeling your body being present in it, that can make you connected again. Or do your favorite hobby, whatever makes you in that zone and in that, I feel I'm part of something greater. That helps you to get your spirit back in your eyes again, get your eyes shining. All right, step number 3. Here we're going to be more action-oriented. And here we're going to go out of our comfort zone and actually expand our comfort zone. And why should we do some action? Well, scientists are saying that we're thinking around 50,000 to 120,000 thoughts each day, and many of those are repetitive and many of the thoughts are negative as well. And I don't think it's easy to just sit down and decide to think positive or new or other thoughts. I think it's easier to actually do an action, because then your brain has to react to something new, and all of a sudden you get some new thoughts that you haven't had before, or some inspired thoughts. So I think what happens often when we have this feeling of being uninspired is that we're not challenged. We feel we lack of challenge, and we also don't have the feeling of accomplishment. And studies are also saying that human beings really need the feeling of having accomplishment in their lives and feeling that often, actually. So I motivate you to do a challenge every week, something that is a bit challenging for you. And it shouldn't be like this huge challenge, like I'm gonna climb this mountain. That's for another time. But here I'm talking about something you can do every week, and it's a new thing, and it should be somewhat of a stretch. So it shouldn't be too difficult and not too easy. Actually, there's this guy, T. Harv Eker, he's saying that if you're only willing to do what's easy, life will be hard. But if you're willing to do what's hard, life will be easy. And I think there's some wisdom in that. So what can you do that's a challenge? Well, that's different for everyone. But for instance, it could be something like inviting your friends for dinner and then cooking something completely different that you've never cooked before. So you have to plan the dinner, you have to find the ingredients, you perhaps have to go to a new grocery shop, and you really have to get into the details and study and plan this. And then when you've done this, you get this feeling of accomplishment. So you have the challenge and you have the accomplishment. And what I did actually when I was in this dull state, I called up my brother and I said, hey, can I borrow your kids for a day? And he said, of course, yes. And I took them into the city of Oslo and we went to theater, and I had the responsibility for those small kids a whole day. And that was huge for me. I'm an aunt and I'm used to play with them at their house, but not having the full responsibility. But this day I had, and I had so much fun. And I had to be mindful and attentive and present. And after that, I had so much energy and I felt so creative. And I got out of my own train of thoughts, you know. So I feel like it really works. So I'm excited about you trying something new each week. So under step number 3, I will also like to inspire you to make some small adjustments every day. And this can be, for instance, eating a different breakfast that you usually do. It can be to change your lipstick or wear some clothes you haven't worn for a long time, take a different road to work. It can be to buy a cappuccino instead of black coffee, or the other way around. Maybe eat your breakfast at a cafe. Maybe change, you know, your furniture in your house. Just put the sofa in another place, or put this picture that was here over there. Because what happens then is that when things are out of the ordinary, your brain will be like, whoa, what happened here? I'm used to look at this picture here, but now that's here. And it kind of gets out of this autopilot, you know, and then it has to be a tentative, and then something happens, we shake things up. So I advise you to do that every day, and then the big challenge every week. And I've tried this and it has really worked for me. Now, step number 4. This is about inspiration, and it's probably the most important thing, I think. We need to shower ourselves with inspiration each day. But before we do that, we have to know what inspires us, right? And do you really know that? Do you know exactly what is inspiring you? Of course we can't know that, because it will be new things continuously that will inspire us. But I think it's important to have some awareness of what I am inspired by. Like, what kind of paintings do you like? What kind of pictures do you like? What kind of films inspire you? What kind of books inspire you? What kind of music inspire you? What kind of painters perhaps? What kind of actors? Maybe it's opera. Whatever it is, what kind of colors? You know, what makes you excited just to watch, you know? You need to be aware of that, and then fill your everyday life with that. Like, every day you need to shower yourself with inspiration. And I notice that the more I do that, the more I do things that inspire me every day, and that I expose myself to pictures and stuff. I have pictures around here that inspires me. I get this spark inside, and I get creative, and I feel excited. And I have a friend who has this screenshot on her Mac, and she just loves it, and every time she says she sees it, she's like, and then I can do anything. Like, it only takes that picture for her. So become aware of what inspires you, and then fill your life up with that. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to make more of these videos where I share what has worked with me, and where I'm going to speak about life, basically. Thank you so much for watching again, and remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't before. Much light from Oslo. Bye bye.